Mike and Deb were watching The Other Guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And oh man, what an absurd show that is. I love it. Okay.
Whatever, which? What'd you say?
What an absurd show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, The Other Guys. I love it. But
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Let me know when we're rocking.
Should be live now.
We're good now?
Yeah.
Cool. I want to see if I can't find it on Instagram, so I want to see if we can, because I'm so self-absorbed, I want to watch our own live video.
Yeah. I think it's actually pretty good. Our heads are about the same size.
Nice. Nailing it.
Yeah.
Is there...
not too much delay.
I'm not seeing anything on Instagram right now.
Oh, not on Instagram. Sorry. This is on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for Instagram and Facebook and stuff, you literally have to go through like a phone or.
Oh, okay.
Thing,
yeah.
So.
That's my bad then. I thought we were going to be live on Instagram so everybody could watch us. This is the greatest start to a podcast maybe ever.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I can see it now.
Okay,
man, so I want to, I guess we wanted to talk about the Your True thing last week, and the Your True thing kind of encapsulates a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
At least for me, and it's literally everything. Like your truth is your reality, right? And so a lot of stuff that goes into that. But I guess I want to talk about something before we get into that, which is something that I just saw on Instagram before we got on here, which was someone shared. I don't know what their intention of this tweet and stuff like that was, but it was something that just kind of sparked a little bit of almost annoyance in me because I found that now that I've gotten so deep into this, kind of controlling your own mindset and control what you can control type thing, instead of a mindset of like what's fair is fair, right? And what I've come to learn is that the attitude of like fair is fair and getting even or revenge or like eye for an eye type mentality is something that's actually really, really, really destructive, right? Fairness is not something that should be executed when we talk about negativity, I guess, so I'll give some context here. I saw a post on Instagram that was basically just like, I don't want to heal my younger self. I want her to get revenge, is what the post was. And so it made me think, and I was like, we've all been there, right? Yeah. We've all wanted revenge. We've all been wronged by someone. I know, like, when my friend was killed in the car accident when I was 18, like I didn't want to thank that person for taking my friend away, right? I didn't want them to. I didn't understand at the time what lessons I was going to learn from this terrible thing that happened in my life, and it was 100% that person's fault. And at that time, it took everything in me to not want to go over, and the person who did this was in the hospital room next to my friend before she passed away, and so within 10 feet of where I was from my friend. And I just remember being so polarized because I was so sad at what had happened, but at the same time I was so angry that that person had taken this person away from me and my friends and their family and done this terrible thing for their own, more or less to save their own skin. And I wanted to kill the dude. Like I did. I wanted to be 50-50. I wanted that eye for an eye thing to be real, right? Like that's all I wanted. And I wanted that for years. And I didn't realize until this year, actually, which marks like the 7-year anniversary of her death, that I was holding all this anger for that person since that day, right? Even though I had thought that the incident itself and the lessons I was supposed to learn through life, I had learned about all that stuff, was had already passed or I had experienced or thought about. I didn't realize that harboring the anger for that person and not forgiving them for what they did was causing me a lot of negative, was costing me a lot of happy moments, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Moments where I shouldn't be thinking about that person or giving them even the time to think about them, right? When really I should have just not forgotten, but forgave a long time ago and realized that it's that person who caused that issue or perpetrated those wrongdoings is suffering now by their own doing, right? They don't need me to get revenge. They don't need me to tell them how stupid or wrong or bad it was, or even try to physically get revenge and try to kill them, right? Like eye for an eye, right? Life for life. Well, that doesn't happen in real life. You can't do that in real life, because when you do that and when you push back when you are wronged, it just causes the same turmoil, right? It's like throwing a stone in a lake that's calm, right? If you throw one stone in, it causes all kinds of ripples and damage, or necessarily damage, but all kinds of ripples and turmoil on the surface of the water that ripples out for a long time, right? And it can go for quite a distance before it stops and the lake is calming again. Well, do you think it's going to calm that lake any faster, any better if you throw two stones in, right? If you throw a bigger stone in after that first one,
it just keeps adding, right?
Right? It just keeps adding to it, right? It just keeps adding to that negativity. And just because you're acting on that feeling of revenge, or I'm getting even, it's my right to do this because that person did it to me, or that person took something from me and wronged me. Well, you're really having an effect on more than just that person. Just like when that person wronged you, it had more of an effect, or wronged me, and my friends' families and all her friends and stuff by taking her life. Well, anything that we did in retaliation is going to affect more people than just that person that we're trying to retaliate against as well. Yeah. Right? There is no eye for an eye. Yeah. It's eyes for eyes, and then, for lack of a better quote, the whole world is black, right? An eye for an eye leaves the whole world black. That's that old saying. But it's just, that was something that I really wanted to touch on, because it really almost aggravated me, I think, because of how hard I'm trying to show everybody and work with people to get people to understand that revenge and like throwing negativity and fighting fire with fire is not, it doesn't work. Yeah. Right? Like that's the military industrial complex. That's the fucking terrorist attack followed by going to invading Iran and I'm fucking all over the place. Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Can I ask, because I feel like you came into the talk today with like this was the forefront of your mind. Was there something that happened that made you want to?
It wasn't on the forefront of my mind. I think what was on the forefront of my mind was, I guess, when it comes to telling your truth, right? I had an experience this weekend, and it was kind of fun. Like, so I'll give you more context here. We went out to my parents' place, which is out in Sundre, and it was me and my girlfriend and one of our friends. And my mom has recently gotten more spiritual and into sort of that stuff too, like, when I started to research spirituality and meditation and your mindset and how it's all linked together, she did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And we were out there visiting them, and she was doing this like tarot card reading thing that my sister-in-law got for her. And
is it tarot? Sorry? I've always thought it was tarot for some reason.
I think it's tarot cards, but I don't even know if they were tarot cards. They were just some sort of like some sort of spirituality thing. But basically, we started to talk about. It gives you like advice, right? It's like supposed to give you. You're supposed to pull 3 cards and think about a situation. What I was thinking about was just my life situation, what I'm trying to manifest in my life, and all the good things that I want to bring into it. And these 3 cards are supposed to basically give you, highlight like what you're doing now, what's in your future interest, and like what kind of things can you continue to do, sort of thing, or change to get there. And one of the cards that it talked about was for me to really dive deeper into what I'm doing with this situation, with my business and with the podcast and with, the things I post online for the people that I want to help. And part of that reality for me is that the reason I got into this stuff was because I was in such a bad place personally, like mentally, not physically in a bad place really, but for a lot of years in my life because of that one tragic event, which was my friend was killed by a drunk driver when, Kendra, when we were 19 and she was 8, or she was 19.
She was
And that really put me into a bad place for about 5 or 6 years, just in terms of my decision making when it came to what was good for me, what was good for others. And I understand why now, obviously, but back then I didn't. And when it was happening, I didn't, right? So I just feel like a lot of people who have been wronged, their truth, like this is where I'll segue into this topic, their truth is that they've been wronged and now the right thing to do is retaliate, right? Or the right thing to do is blame themselves. Or the right thing to do is think of themselves as a victim and you'll always be a victim and bad things just happen to you. Or blame the other person and try to get your revenge and all that stuff, right? So that is a lot of people's truths when bad things happen to them. And I think a lot of what we see on social media, especially where people are posting about their truth, right, which is really just their opinion on a topic, and we see people post things that cause such turmoil and arguments and arguing in the comments and all this different shit that's like causing these global movements when really it's just an individual posting their opinion about something based off their personal experience, right? And then what you get is other people arguing against that, like their experience, and by posting and sharing their experience on whatever it is that they're talking about is somehow projecting who they are and their identity. And so if I talk about a subject like I don't know what's a tight subject right now. Let's say China, like the Chinese, the issues with China and the virus and the anti-Asian hate movement and stuff like that. Well, I recently listened to a podcast with a journalist who covered the CCP, which is the Chinese Communist Party. And in China, he covered them for years, and he's covered many, many different news publications in Asia. And he talked about how this anti-Asian hate movement, which, yes, Asian hate numbers have gone up, I believe, in the U.S. based on recent activities. I don't know the numbers around it, but all I know is that a lot of it is sparked by these individual one-off moments that you see, where like some crazy person attacks an Asian person for saying that that they created coronavirus or something stupid and ridiculous, right? And you see these one-off incidences with these crazy people who have obviously been influenced in some way, shape, or form to carry out these horrible, racist, ignorant attacks on people, innocent people. And then all of a sudden the whole world thinks that if you think that, the coronavirus was a lab accident in Wuhan and it escaped, which is, the evidence points to that being very, very likely, that because well, just wait. Just because you think that, and the guy who threw acid on an Asian person also thinks that, well, now all of a sudden we're the same person because we have a same or similar idea about something, right? Well, guess what? That guy who threw acid on an Asian person, he probably also loves his mom. I love my mom. Does that also make me like him, right? Is there, or can we all just agree that a person who takes action on something like that is not the same as anyone who might even carry the same thoughts, but is like in a category of their own, right? For who they are, because they take such negative action, right? Where a lot of people may have negative thoughts, but they don't take negative action because they realize internally that it's a wrong thing. They may feel in their minds it's right based on whatever they're thinking about, but internally they don't act most of the time because they understand that really they're wrong, subconsciously they're wrong, or they're basing it on a different opinion, or it's based on something that's motivating them for their own interests, right? It's not really something that they identify with.
Yeah.
Whereas crazy people who need mental help and should be, hospitalized are identifying themselves by committing atrocities like this, and then all of a sudden, because I'm a conservative or I'm a liberal, I'm either with that guy or not with him. What is?
I think a lot of that.
It's the generalization.
It is, and it's really easy for people to generalize. Like you look at, I think a lot of it comes from the media and kind of the stuff that we're seeing on a regular basis. You look at even the Democrats and Republicans in the U.S. It's all you ever see is the extreme side of either or, right? So people often, it's you're either a Democrat or you're a Republican, and there's no in between. I think in Canada we're kind of lucky to have other parties, so there's people just don't identify with one or the other, and so it's in the media it's just like it's one or the other, and you're a part of. If you're this, you support this full group, or the opposite, right? And there's no middle ground anymore, because that's all we see is the outliers, right? Which is unfortunate, because that's not necessarily the case.
Well, and how do you combat that then, right? Like, how do you say, well, there's probably a much larger there's probably a much larger population of people who should be represented by a party that is in the middle and not conservative or liberal, right?
Yeah.
And conservatives and liberals, they're not on the far end of the political scale with like fascism and communism, right? Mm-hmm. But they are politicized. They are polarized. They are, for lack of a better word, and what we're seeing in the United States right now, being changed to opposite, right? Being liberal used to be like, oh, I'm easygoing. I'm not like super pent up about. This was my idea of being liberal, at least when I was younger, right? It was about wanting free speech and about wanting what's good for the group and wanting what's best for everyone, and including gay rights and gay marriage and trans rights and whatever you want to do, like be your own person, right? But all of a sudden, at some point in time, being a liberal switched from everyone is happy with the greater good, right? And we help those in need and everyone contributes, to if you don't contribute, then you're an outlier and we want you fucking out. And you're gone. You can't be with us. And this is an exclusive group now because you're an asshole and you have this opinion and it doesn't go with us, so fuck you, get away from it, right? That's not what it was. Liberalism was opposite of that. It was about accepting everybody. It was about accepting the guy who, you know what, let's pretend that this guy's a racist, okay? I don't have to like him. I don't even have to associate with him. But as a liberal thinking person, it's not my right or my thought process to go up and tell that guy how wrong he is, and that he needs to change his mind, and that his blah, 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 it's all wrong, and because he doesn't think like me, he can't be in this area or part of this group or partake in this. It's like, well, you know what? If that person's not doing anything to interrupt me or try to change my thought process or try to like tell me I'm wrong, right? Why is it my right to do that to them? Even if it's like by society standards, racism is wrong, and we all know it is, right? But that person, for whatever reason in their world, racism was something that they see as right? So instead of getting mad about that and getting mad at that person for thinking it's right, why don't we take a step further and become empathetic and go, why does that person think that? Mm-hmm. What happened to that person in their life where they think that being racist is okay? Where they think that telling anyone that they can do anything or not do anything based on their opinion, their skin color, their gender, their sexuality is okay, right? What happened in their childhood that caused that? And all of a sudden, I don't have hate for that person anymore. I have interest, I have curiosity, I have empathy, because that person was probably put through some terrible things as a kid, or given some horrible parenting, obviously, and given these ideas about the skin color or race or gender, sexuality, whatever it is causes has some inherent effect on who you are as a person and how you're going to treat others, right? And the fact that people can't contain their own, I guess, egos, for lack of a better word, to look deeper into the why is the really frustrating part for me, I think. And that was a really long, roundabout way of getting to that. Yeah. But I think I was trying to figure it out for myself, why I was frustrated too.
I think going back to, how the media is very much perpetrating that whole, again, going back to the knee-jerk reaction movement that has been so prevalent as of late. I would be curious if there is, an actual point in time where it's like there was a switch, because it did feel like it was very sudden that these things were happening, right? Where people felt like a lot of people felt so strongly about these things,
Well, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no worries. And it would be. Oh, come on. Sorry. It's back. There we go. It was just kind of it would be interesting to see if there is a point in time where all of a sudden there was a spike in that type of thinking. You know what I mean?
Well, what I'm seeing right now is a spike in the opposite way. So this is the bigger picture, right? Is I see a lot of people who are still caught up in the negativity of 2020. Yeah. Right? I see a lot of people who are dragging what they lived through in 2020 into 2021 and continuing to live through the same misery. And the government's not helping. Like, let's be honest, right? The government keeps implementing all these stupid strategies that aren't working. And it seems like everyone's waiting for someone to come forward and say, follow me, right? This is the real answer. If you want help, and that's what we're trying to do with work, right? That's what we're trying to do with our business is be that entity that helps people and shows people a way that they can help themselves, right? But there's just so much negativity that happens or that's been happening in 2020 and so many people that are so bitter about what happened to them in 2020 that they're not looking forward and saying, what can I do now to get myself to a place where I want to be, or to get myself even back to where I was before after this fall, or what lessons do I need to take away from all that shit that I went through last year and apply to this year so that I don't go through that again, right? And I see it everywhere, that there is people that are so stuck in that negativity, but then I'm also seeing this opposite thing happen, right? I'm starting to see those people who are following this calling of man, there's a calling for positive people out there right now, and positive news and positive topics and positive action, because everybody is talking about what's wrong. Everybody's talking about all this shit that's not happening anymore, or not fun, or the restrictions and what we're getting told we can't. Yeah, and all the stuff that's not working, and those of us who are getting sick of it, it's like having a partner who just constantly bitches about everything negative, right? You can only take so much of it before you say, dude, or lady, or whatever pronoun you go by.
I think I might start going by the pronoun dude.
Yeah.
Just dude.
Dude Adam. This is Dude Adam. Or whatever, right? But it's like, I forget you threw me off.
Sorry.
But you get the point. You get the point, right? It's about being positive and about going, you know what? I'm not going to let this shit bother me. I'm going to find new ways to do things. The old ways are not working anymore, right? Because the restrictions are stopping them from working. The virus does not allow you to do certain things. Whatever changes have happened that are stopping you from doing something that you enjoyed or brought you happiness. Well, guess what? That opened up a hole in your life. And a lot of people are trying to fill that hole with what they used to do in the past, and it's frustrating because they can't, because the restrictions and the people and the virus and the guy, all this different shit. Well, find something new to fill that hole with, right? Don't forget about everything you enjoyed or give up on it, whatever. But fill that hole with something that you can constructively help society with now, right? There's a lot of people struggling, and frankly, it's selfish, as much as people think it's not, to to only care about the past and be upset about things you can't do anymore. It's very, very selfish. People may tell themselves, well, there's a lot of people who are upset about this, so it's not selfish, right? There's a lot of people. I'm representing a group. Well, no, you're representing yourself, and you're upset about that topic for your own issues, for your own personal reasons. You're not upset about that issue for the same personal reasons the guy next to you is, or the woman next to you is, or the kids are around you, right? You're upset because of your own personal reasons. So if you, instead of complaining and asking someone else to change this thing for you or go back to the old ways, took some fucking initiative and start making new things and making things better and correcting the personal issue you have with whatever problem is being caused by the government or by whatever entity is causing these problems in your life, then you won't have to deal with that negativity anymore. You'll find that positive things start to happen. You start attracting people into your life who fill those needs. You find a different hobby that you like to do even more than the one that you had to give up. You create something that makes you a ton of money that helps all those people who you were bitching about some restriction with, right? Instead of complaining, do it. Do it, right? That's the problem, is the world has lost all of its doers. All the doers are it seems like they're hiding. They're too afraid to come out of the shadows and actually say, I'm going to do this thing, because they're going to get shut down, right? All the people who are not doing things have taken to social media and live there now and have created this world of negativity. And frankly, there's a lot of people in the world who are going, well, fucking Instagram, delete. Facebook, delete. Snapchat, delete, right? I don't need that shit in my life because what's happening around me is great. People I'm with, great. My family, amazing. My niece and nephew, awesome, right? But the only negative thing in my life comes from people around me on social media who are talking about things that have, frankly, nothing to do with me in my personal situation. And that in itself has allowed me to be a positive person, be able to support the people in my life when they are experiencing negativity, be there as a form of support for people who need it, who can't, who don't have access to this information or time to really work on things, or did actually get affected by COVID in ways that they lost a life or something like that they'll never get back, that they can't improve on, right? But there's just so many people out there that are in a position to do something, and all they're doing is fucking complaining, and it's driving me nuts. Stop complaining and do something with that motivation. Besides, go to Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and post something. Right? Go out and help a business that's struggling if that's what you're worried about. Right? Don't just complain because it's not doing anything except for adding to all the shit the world is already having to deal with. And those of us that are trying to take action, it only makes it worse and harder because it pushes people against that action when all you do is sit and talk about it. Right? So that's my rant for the day, but that all came from one thing I saw, and it just was so frustrating to me because I'm so sick of seeing the same thing, man.
So I think what's going back to that initial thing where I was saying there's a spike in this negativity and the people playing just that knee-jerk reaction mentality to our biases, but I think that happened, and then the spike that you talked about of this group of people that are sick of this and are trying to get out of this mindset and do something, that's all happening now as well, right? So I think, with this whole podcast idea that we're trying to do, which also I'm needing to say, we should figure out what is involved in getting this on Spotify or podcasts, because we might as well. It's be crazy not to.
I'm sure we just have to pay a premium or something, and you got on Spotify.
Something like that, or if the content is good enough, maybe not. I don't know. Either way, I think that's there's, as much as we are part of something or trying to create something, there's 100 other people out there trying to create the same thing. So, I think if going into this with the goal of bringing those people together in those different groups that are already out there and already building, creating as much of a community amongst everybody, I think, that would be a very good direction to build this movement, the sum of all the parts, right?
here's something that is an idea to be proposed then, because what I think is really missing right now for the world is something that we can all work towards, right? Because right now, here's the perfect example of how social media can have a major worldwide impact. When George Floyd got murdered, the entire world shut down and protested that act, right? That one act. Not just the one act, but all the acts of police brutality that had been taking place, specifically in the United States, some in England, some Canada, right? Some in other countries too, I'm sure. At least I didn't see them. But the whole world reacted. And what are you seeing now, right? You're seeing police reform for the first time in the U.S. since the invention of slavery, basically. Since Jim Crow law, right? You're seeing police reform. And not police reform in a way that's defunding police and getting rid of the people who protect us when we need it, but increasing the budgets for training, increasing the budget for how they do their recruiting and recruiting people who are going to be good police officers, smart, well-trained, responsible people who are going to respond calmly to situations and not react and panic and cost lives, right? Or be corrupted, or right, like that is the positive thing that came out of that. And all we had to do was see one video go viral, and the whole world changed, right?
Isn't it backwards how, like there are some issues that are much greater. Sorry, I'll let you finish. I'll come back around to this.
Yeah, I'll get into that point I think that you were going to make there, which is a really good point. But I think that why that happened was because when you watch that video of George Floyd on your cell phone, you watched a cell phone video of someone who was standing there recording this, and we were all there, right? I know that's what happened to me. I was on the sidewalk. I was standing there looking at these people, watching George Floyd get killed by a police officer in broad daylight with no one helping him, right? And we all lived that. We were all the person holding the phone there. And a lot of people went, I'm not fucking doing nothing anymore. I need to do something about this because I feel like I should have done something that would have prevented this before, right? I feel like I should. So the whole world got up and said, we're going to do something about this because we don't want to see this shit anymore. We don't want innocent black people being killed just for the sake of being black or being stereotyped or, some bullshit law that stops them from having the same advantages as a white person, right? Like, we don't want to see that anymore. We want equality, right? And we want equality in genders as well. You see that with the Me Too movement and all this, sexual harassment and abuse and terrible things that were happening to women in the entertainment industry and being taken advantage of by powerful men. Well, why can't we come together as a world to address issues like that? Because, and I'll tell you why, is because it doesn't affect us all personally like the George Floyd thing did, right? Because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your life situation. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer who makes $300,000 a year or a homeless person on the street. If you saw that happen, 99.9% of people in the world would agree that that was wrong and terrible and unjustified. Well, 99% of the world doesn't agree that food is an issue, that big pharma is an issue, that the environment is an issue, right? That the oceans are dying, that the global warming is a real thing, that China has killed and disappeared thousands of people in the last year who are reporters there and enslaved them in literal slave camps in China that are being built by companies that we sponsor and pay for by investing in them on publicly traded markets in Canada and the US, right? And your money that you're investing in that company is literally going to building fences that are being used for slave camps, for free labor in China. Like, this is a real thing that's happening, okay? And instead, the whole world is up in arms about saying that the virus escaped from a lab in Wuhan. Instead of going, hey, why don't we take this as a fucking opportunity to take a closer look at China's regulations when it comes to their viral research facilities. Maybe we need to look at how they're literally enslaving their own population that looks much like Russia and the Ukraine, but within China, right? China and Taiwan right now is a major problem, right? Like these are all issues that we should be focusing on, but instead we get redirected to bullshit issues like stuff we can't fucking have any control over.
Yeah.
Right? But the world needs to come together and deal with these issues. And maybe it's because we don't have that piece of video footage that shows a little girl dying in a slave camp in China that we're not making a big issue over this. I don't know.
And here's, I think it's
But we shouldn't need to have that to take action as the world. We should go, that's wrong, let's fix it.
That's the biggest problem. So I don't know if you've seen Seaspiracy.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So basically, there was a video that went around of a turtle with a straw getting pulled out of its nose.
I remember this.
That was a viral video. So literally the whole world went up in arms against plastic straws,
which did nothing.
Well, it wasn't. That's beside the point. But and a lot of people have gone away from plastic straws, and that's great.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual volume of plastic straws and even single-use plastics that are in the ocean, it is, it's a tiny fraction compared to the actual plastics that are filling the ocean.
Every single day.
This is based on Seaspiracy, but it's fishing nets and fishing line and stuff. That's what's filling the ocean.
It was 60% of the garbage in the ocean is made up by used fishing nets.
Yeah, something like that. Which is why are we not addressing that issue? Well, it's
we're trying to do anything at all about the Pacific garbage patch that's floating out there.
Yeah.
That nobody's doing anything about. It's just sitting there.
Everybody's aware of it. But it's the fact that is the major part of that issue, but we decided to gravitate towards straws, which are literally, I think it was less than 1%.
Yeah, but look at who pushes that, okay? So you saw in that documentary that there's one single organization, which is, I forget what the number was, but I believe it's in the billions, and I believe it was around 6 billion or something like that. It could have been even more.
Yeah.
But it was one organization in the United States that is responsible for all of the multinational organizations that are supposed to be looking out for the health of the ocean, right? And that happens to be the same industry, the same component that is also the one who hands out the dolphin safe label on all tuna and fish and crab and any seafood that comes out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, all you have to do to get that label, there's no test, there's no person that comes and sees to make sure there's no dolphin in the tuna.
Yeah.
There's none of that, which people assume. All you have to do is pay a premium. That's it. Is pay a premium and you get that seal. And then they send a person, they have regulations that aren't in the books, but they send that one person out to check and see if they're actually following regulations. And there's even been, circumstances where they've sent people out to verify that these people are retrieving dolphins, and they disappear. Yeah. And they fell overboard, and we couldn't find them, right? And other shit like that. So the end of that movie comes down to what though? What is the one thing that we can do to stop that from happening? To stop the increase of fishing nets and shit in the ocean, which is what? Stop eating fish, right?
Less fish. Yeah, whatever it is.
Stop eating fish, right? And so if the answer to everyone just needs to lower their income, or not stop, right? Yeah. Lower their intake. Lower your intake of fish.
Yeah.
Instead of, right? Don't eat fish once a week. Eat fish once a month. Don't eat fish you buy at the store. Eat fish you catch yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that if you want to do that. Or just limit it to certain types of seafood, right? Things that aren't being caught in giant 10-mile wide nets that are being dragged on the bottom of the ocean and destroying that environment.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be able to come together as a group because that is really the only solution to the world's problems is for the world's citizens to come together in agreement on what is acceptable, what is not, how can we make a big enough impact, because these corporations have billions of dollars, so we can't fight them in court, but how can we make a big enough impact to get them to stop?
Currently, the the driving factor behind the world's economy is people buying, right? So it's all in our power. It's what we buy, what we purchase, what we consume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I think there's many driving factors.
There is, but that's like if we want to make a significant change as a large group, that's it. We can boycott these things, but we boycott them by not buying things.
So your solution to cutting back on fish is to come up with an alternative?
No, stop buying fish. Essentially that's exactly what it is. But maybe it's an alternative, but
But I don't think
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think the current best answer to solve these global problems as a community is to do it through our buying power, because almost the entire world is based on a capitalist economy where if we buy, these companies will keep doing stuff. They'll keep fishing,
and if you stop buying, they run out of money to fill the boats, to buy new nets, to hire people.
Yeah, exactly my point. So anyways, that's probably the way. So if we want to solve these problems, it's in our buying power. So I was listening to the Rich Roll podcast. I don't know if you listen to that. He brings on these people, and they can kind of do what we do, except they talk to different people. It's not just us. I listened to one recently, and kind of the topic they were discussing at that point in time that kind of stuck with me was how so many people, they spend their whole lives or so much time developing who they are and their identity, that when somebody goes to them and says, hey, here's some facts on something that you do that are it's bad for you, or it's bad for the environment, that that person is likely going to respond like, hey, but I love that, fuck you, like I want to
I know it's not bad because it's only done good things for me.
Well, not even that. It's just that's who I am. What am I going to be if I'm not that person?
Or you're calling me bad by saying that thing is bad, right? Because I identify with that thing.
So that's the the ego comes up immediately. It's that knee-jerk reaction, and but like at the root of it, it's like if I am this person, it hurts. It hurts because I've loved this thing for so long, right? So when we tell people that fishing is, at the rate we're going, it's going to be a big factor that kills the earth. Look at red meat, same thing. It's a huge contributing factor to carbon emissions, and yet people are up in arms when you say that. It's like, you can't take away my steak, There's so many examples of this where people have such a strong reaction against it, right?
And you can see the reactions coming from a place of ignorance, though, because in ignorance, when I say ignorance, I mean a place of lack of knowledge, right? So if you say to someone, we're not going to put industrial meat in grocery stores anymore. Mm-hmm. So the only meat that comes into the grocery store is going to come from local farmers once a year when they raise their herds or whatever in a manner that's acceptable for society, and the animals are produced in a way that's acceptable for society, right?
Sustainable, not even acceptable, but
acceptable and sustainable. But then we might have to accept that, hey, the grocery store only has meat from Monday to Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So if you want steak this week, you're gonna have to go in Monday to Wednesday and get your steak, because there's no more meat for the rest of the week, because the next shipment's not coming, because we're not going to do it's not a supply demand thing, right? It's a necessity. Mm-hmm. And we've done the math as a human race. We know that the sustainable number of cattle that we can farm and use on our land and produce meat with is this amount, right? Per year, per day, whatever. So we have to limit ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we as a society have to agree that we're going to cap it at this. Yeah. And if you have a problem with it, find a better solution. Yeah. Don't complain, right? And so it's like, that's going to piss a lot of people off. Well, why is that going to piss a lot of people off? Because they don't know where they're going to get their meat from, or they're not going to be sure if they can get their meat. Well, guess what? If more people knew how to hunt and knew how to fish and could rely on themselves more, well, then it wouldn't be upsetting. If someone told me, Cole, you're not going to be able to buy meat from the grocery store from Thursday to Sunday every week from now on, okay, I'm going to put a lot more focus on hunting this year. I'm not going to get upset because I don't go and buy a lot of meat from the grocery store as it is, but I'm also going to go, well, you know what? I have a solution to this. I know how to hunt. I know where I can hunt.
Yeah.
Right? I can go get my own meat.
Yeah.
And I do it in a humane way. And that is going to be enough meat for me and my needs and my family's needs and my immediate circle's needs for however long.
Exactly.
So if each person took that responsibility for themselves, if something they didn't like happened, make the situation so you like it. Change your circumstances. If the government tells you you have to shut your business down because of this violation of the COVID thing, well then start to come up with ideas how you can get around that by complying with it and keep your fucking business open instead of going to the government and complaining for 2 weeks and watching your business crash and close.
Yeah.
Right? As much as that's what you want to do because you're being wrong, you have to just go, well then, if that's the way things are now, I guess I'm going to have to make a change. Yeah. If it's not necessarily the way they're going to be forever and always, we have to adapt, right? People that don't adapt, not just people,
well, it's the law
any creature on Earth that does not adapt to its environment does not survive. Exactly. We've seen it. Yeah. Okay? And you're seeing it with people. We're no exception to Earth's rules, even though we like to think about it that way.
Yeah. I think, and that kind of goes back to our fear of the unknown and like a human's inherent inability to change and stuff. It goes with that comfortability. I'm comfortable in this situation. This is who I've become. But if all of a sudden somebody says that's not going to happen anymore, you can't do that, it sucks. Like people go nuts, right? So.
Well, because who are you to tell me I can't do something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that, and that's instead of a reaction, that should be a response. You can't do this anymore. Yeah. Well, what's the reality of that? Okay, so let's say you can't. Let's say the government comes out with a rule and says you're not allowed to go outside anywhere in this province without a mask. Not in a building, anywhere outside your own home apartment. You have to be masked up. Right? There's going to be a shitload of people who have a knee-jerk reaction, take to social media, take to Facebook, like whatever, and they're just going to complain and yell and, we're not going to take this, and there's going to be a bunch of people outside the Parliament building, in Calgary and stuff like that, right? And they're freaking out about this.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause even more trouble and more turmoil, and the police are going to show up, and there's going to be all this shit happening, and everyone's going to be scared because the world's going to shit because all these people are fighting and there's a police protest and a riot happening. Well, guess what? If that person had said, hey, you're not allowed to go anywhere outside here without a mask on, or you're going to get a fine, right? Then what if you consider the reality of that? What if you consider the reality that there are millions of people within this province and that probably 90% of the people feel the same way you do about this, which is that's ridiculous. And ask yourself the question, how's this going to work? How are they going to know if I go outside and walk around with no mask on, right? Is there enough police officers in this province? Is there enough bylaw officers in this province? Is there enough police officers in this province that are going to agree with that? Who are going to hold people accountable to that rule? Right? Because they're humans too. And that's what we don't factor in. The government is made of human beings with their own intentions and their own motivating factors, right? And their own opinions and experiences. So when they make decisions like that to add more restrictions, well, that's because that's the environment they live in, where they think this is the best thing that we can do. This is the best thing we can do, and I know it, and they're sure of it, right? Well, guess what? If they changed their environment, they probably wouldn't think that anymore. If they changed their environment to being a local business owner rather than a politician, all of a sudden their experience changes. All of a sudden their opinion changes. All of a sudden that regulation that they think makes sense might not make sense anymore, right? Because it's all a matter of the environment you're in that moment. And if someone comes out on social media and says, everyone has to wear masks, and I don't hear about it, I'm not going to wear a mask outside. I'm just going to go outside and live my day and live my life, and not let that piece of news that that person said, not acted on, affect me, because there's no action being taken. I don't have to let it affect me, right? If a cop comes up to me and says, hey, where's your fucking mask? Let's say in the one off chance that I run into a police officer, if this happens, right, and he's going to enforce this rule, where's your face mask? What do you mean? Well, you're not supposed to be outside without a face mask. I don't have one. Okay, I'm going to write you a ticket. No. Right? Then you can deal with that situation. Then you're in a situation now where someone's trying to stop you. Just wait. Trying to stop you from doing something physically. There's action being taken on this. Okay? At that point, that's where you have the right to push back. That's where doing something about it is going to matter. And say, I'm going to raise a huge fuss. I'm going to get public opinion here. Because here's someone actually trying to enforce this thing that they talked about, right? Whereas the protest and the uprising of people who are going to go against that rule are all taking action before anything happens, and that just causes even more negative action, more negative pushback, and instead, if they had gone, obviously we need people to be opposed to it, but don't necessarily take negative action. Oppose it, but don't take negative action. Take positive action.
Yeah.
Ask the question, excuse me, how are these regulations supposed to help with the issue that they're addressing? How exactly has the government come out with this as the answer? Okay, so when will they be initiating this? Okay, so we as a group then have to go, well, let's put together something and present it as a counter solution, right? Not even an argument against it, but a counter solution.
Yeah.
Hey, instead of presenting regulations, the group of restaurant owners within Calgary has come up with this solution that goes by the Alberta government's schedule that we think would work better for the economy, for us, for the government, and for the health and safety industry and all their workers, and for the people at risk of this virus. Here's a plan. Instead of going, fuck you, you can't tell us what to do, fight back, fuck the man, fight the, all that shit. Yeah. No, hey, here's a plan. My plan's better than your plan. All these people agree with me that my plan's better than your plan. So let's have a debate, conversation, talk to the mayor, talk to the people we elected to make these fucking decisions and make them happen, and go, here's a solution provided by the people instead of a solution provided by a minority group, which is the government, on how we're all supposed to act, right? And take shit on our shoulders instead of going, cool, come up with a better solution, government. Why don't you come up with one? So, right? What's your solution?
Essentially, we need some sort of platform where people can go to actually come up with and create these solutions.
The platform, yes. I think we have multiple platforms. Like obviously, with ours will be a good one for our community. Facebook, Instagram, right? These are all platforms you can use. But instead of posting something about how you disagree with the regulations, post a solution instead. Say, here is the reason why this is a better solution, and here are all the negative things about this solution that are not going to be negative about this solution. And here's a highlighted list of all the negative side effects that I can point out about this possible solution.
Yeah. But
there's less than there is in this one. So that's the better solution for now. That'll be the solution. Let's continue to upgrade that, right? It's not a matter of like, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. It's like, do this better.
Yeah.
Do more of this.
And that's like, I think with democracy and how it was originally planned out, that was the goal of it, was to do that. But and yet we do have the technology. I guess when I say platform, it's like you need something to do those things. You need something that can organize people. People know to go to actually make something happen. Like Facebook, yes, it's a platform, but there needs to be something maybe within Facebook where people can be like, okay, here's the situation. Here are some solutions. Provide some other ones, but you still need that centralized thing that people can go to, whether it's, you have to
argue that point though, because I think the platforms are a big reason that we see a lot of the turmoil that we have.
It is.
Because there's not enough room to communicate on those.
How do you
right?
come together as a group if you otherwise?
It's a matter of broadcasting the message, but it's also, and this is where it gets complicated, because it relies on a unity consciousness between people around the world to say, we're going to take responsibility for ourselves, right? I think a big problem that we're seeing is that too many people, and I think this is something that the people of Canada need to get better at, and this is something that I actually respect the people of the US for doing in a lot of ways, is saying the government is not here to tell us what to do. The government is not here to show us what we can do, tell us what we can say, tell us what we can and can't do, or call people, or even if you're being an asshole, right? It's not the fucking government's job to tell me what I can and cannot do. The government is here to serve me. When I need something, the government should be there to serve me. Now, when I need something I can't get on my own, the government should be there to serve me. So, if you can't protect your family on your own, the government should be there to provide assistance to protect your family. If you can't afford to eat, the government should be there to give you assistance so that you can then create a way to afford for yourself to eat, right? They don't need to be there to give you money to eat. They need to be there to give you the opportunity to create your own wealth, to be able to feed yourself. Now, whether it's a mental disorder or whatever, those are all one-off situations. But you have to separate, like not you, but the people of Canada need to separate themselves from the fucking government, because the government right now is telling us what to do. The government is saying, this is our business, you're all our employees. That's essentially what's happening. You don't have a choice. If you don't want to listen to us, you're going to get fired, right? You're going to get fined. You're going to be put on suspension. You have to stay in your home now. Well, that's a boss. That's a dictatorship, okay? You're dictating what I do, right? You're not giving me assistance when I need it. If I get COVID, the government should have a program that is specifically set up for people at risk with 2 or more morbidity factors, right? Oh, you're sick? Okay. Instead of quarantining in your home, we have this process that they go through, and I know my girlfriend went through the process of phone call interviews and all that stuff when you get COVID already. Yeah. So it happens, right? Make that process about what you can do to get better, or to improve your health, or here are the facilities that you can go to if you start to experience this, and then everything outside of that is self-regulated. Hey, Canadian people, it's our job as a government to make you aware of this problem. It is our job as a government to act on what the professionals believe is the solution to this. Now, if you guys as a country and as individual citizens don't want to abide by something, then that's your individual right? But if that individual right begins to affect someone else's individual rights in a way that they don't like, or is negative, or is physically harming to them, right? Well, and in this example, let's use masks, right? Let's say masks. If you don't want to wear a mask, but that person truly believes that they're at risk if you're not wearing a mask, but they are, well, why does that, the way to avoid those confrontations is just to avoid that environment. If you believe that people without masks are putting you at risk, well, don't put yourself in an environment where people aren't wearing masks, right? But that's your own decision.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt for a moment. So
yeah, I'm on a rant. So
yeah, I think going back to the original point, essentially what you were talking about, people need to come together to kind of have some pushback, but in a constructive way, not just out of anger.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, So I think that, like, essentially that's a form of petition, right? But what I'm saying with the platform is there needs to be somewhere they can go that is actually an effective location to do that, right? Not going on Facebook and getting mad, because that just riles up everybody else. But if there was somewhere that was, people could go and be like, hey, this is what just happened. Here are some counter solutions. What do you think? And it's not we will, here's a spot to inform you and make a vote on it. I think it goes back to that whole, we literally have the technology now where people can go on, or people can vote via the internet.
Like the voting app that we talked about.
Which makes like, the whole concept of a little bit more, population hands-on governing possibility. So, and I think one cool thing too is when I finally got that NFT figured out. No bites so far, so anybody watching this, I'm not sure. But it's like blockchain is a way to prevent, to use voting in a way that's not going to be replicated or that kind of thing. So, anyways, the technology's there, and I think it would be a very cool thing to allow the people to vote and present them with the information they need to vote.
Okay, but then you have, so here's the argument against this, okay? So I'm going to provide this perspective, because this is not my perspective, but I understand this perspective. So I recently saw, one of my friends is very politicized in terms of what he posts on Facebook, and he's very much like a libertarian, so he's like middle ground, right, like a lot of us. And I believe it, I don't remember what the bill is, but it's like Bill C-110 or something like that.
Is that the media one?
Yeah, so they're basically, government's argument is that if you are a Canadian citizen using a Canadian VPN, which is essentially you're connecting to the internet from somewhere in Canada,
yes,
right? And you're posting things on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever you're posting, right? That if you say something that goes against the guidelines within that bill, that they have the right to remove it from the internet, no longer allow you other people to view it or hear your opinion, and deplatform you essentially from sharing whatever that opinion is.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the argument for that when you see things like the QAnon shit that happened in the U.S. and like the destruction of the Capitol buildings.
Extreme movements.
Yeah. And so I think that's the argument for that, right? And then the argument against it is, well, who's the government to say what I can and cannot think? Who is the government to tell me that I can and cannot share my opinion with people? Whose opinion is it? Because someone in the U.S., someone in government is saying that, this isn't allowed to be on there and this isn't allowed to be on there. Well, guess what? That's their individual opinions based on their individual experiences. So, yes, I'm sure they would be eliminating a lot of stuff that causes negative, like hate speech, whatever that is, right? And different stuff that like causes things to escalate into mass shootings and other things like that you see on these websites down in the U.S., right? But I think the problem is not that people are communicating. The problem is that, people don't know how to communicate properly, and most people, even that speak English, don't speak good English. Like they don't know different, they don't have a large vocabulary. They can't describe what they're thinking or feeling or wanting most of the time to people so that they can understand it, because they don't even have enough words in their vocabulary to do that, right? So communicating on these platforms is one of the major problems. But the other thing is, like, if without those QAnon groups, without the people that are just fucking off their rockers and knee deep in the conspiracy theories that are happening, around the world, we don't have that. It's almost impossible to have that voice of reason to go, look at how crazy things can be. right? If you deplatform all these people because their opinion doesn't line up with a liberalistic agenda, well, you're not giving a true picture of what the political landscape looks like. You're not giving a true picture of, like, if I go outside and talk to 10 people, 1 of 10 people will have this opinion, right? Well, you're not getting that opinion because the government's cutting it off, right? And that opinion is important, right? Even if it's evil, even if it's bad, even if it's wrong, it's important because we have to know what is wrong.
Yeah.
If we just assume that because the government allows it to be on Instagram that it's right, well then guess what? Liberals, you're being told what to think. You're being told what is okay. And just because it aligns with your views doesn't mean that that's the right answer, right? Whether it aligns or it doesn't align. Yeah. But every single person needs to have the right to share their opinion, whether it's right in the eyes of the majority or wrong in the eyes of the majority. It has to be there because you cannot have the balance without the opposing opinions.
So how does that tie back to my suggestion?
About the platform?
Yeah, where it's just, it has like,
we have to create something that allows people to communicate and share their opinions, no matter what it is, without organizing acts of violence.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think my solution to this is that all platforms, no matter what your platform is, no matter what your regulations are on your platform, you have to, the only piece of legislation that they should have to abide by is that freedom of speech is 100% allowed within these websites, but it's the platform's responsibility to report its users or its groups that are planning events or whatever, organizing these negative things on their platforms to report and analyze and review and ensure that this is something that's nefarious, right? Even if it's not talking about actually doing it, even if it's a group that's like, blow up this school or some shit, and there's 40 people who are just talking about how they want to do that. It's like, hey, you might want to keep an eye on this, right? Hey, police people, here's the names of all these people in this group that are talking about this. Contact them individually. And I guarantee you that bombing's not going to happen, right? Contact the guys who are in the QAnon groups who are talking about doing mass shootings in mosques, right? Identify them.
Yeah, like if anybody were to think that Facebook and Instagram doesn't have the algorithms to identify some of this speech and actually be able to forward that to, and I'm sure there's,
but they need to be transparent about exactly what speech they're not allowing.
But it's very, it's kind of interesting. So, anyways, still, like going back to my initial thought, where if you have like a petition platform specifically for these big issues.
Oh, I didn't understand your question.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say it's like your thoughts were all like very in line with mine, but Anyways, so it's basically a petition platform where people can go on and they can have their vote.
Search your bill or whatever.
Yeah. If you have an opinion on this, you can search it up, but obviously there would need to be somebody who's in there and saying, okay, here are the counter arguments. Pick which one you would like to see. Because, I think to properly organize something in a way that can be presented like, hey, 5 million people signed this counter argument to what you guys just suggested here at the government. You should probably take a look at it and reconsider your thoughts, right? Because right now you just see petitions going around Facebook, or people make a little post and it blows up, and 1,000 people see it, but that maybe is not something that is actually actionable by the government, right? So,
and honestly, I think the human factor limits us a lot in what we're going to be able to do and communicate, or in terms of our communication and understanding of certain situations. And when I say the human factor, I mean our inability to communicate properly, right? So we talked about that a little bit already, which was communication skills that I touched on, but I was saying I guess what I really wanted to get across there, and this is a perfect example of communication skills breaking down, right? Is even if I tell you every detail of a situation, of a story that happened to me, your understanding of that story and situation will never, ever, ever be the exact same as mine, right? And until we find a way to not only communicate words, but actions, intentions, experiences, feelings, motivations, to one another simultaneously, we will never be able to solve collective issues.
You know,
because
sorry, I just had a quick thought on that, like an actual way, which would be kind of why it'd be like doing a drug. But basically, if I have a feeling, you have this device, say it's Neuralink or something that actually measures the amounts of the particular hormones that are released in my brain, and then you can like store that on a file somewhere, and then it's like, I want to know what this person was thinking in that moment, and then you like it would like obviously pretty dystopian and wild, but that was just kind of anyways.
I think that's a funny concept.
It's like a Black Mirror
storing a file. The only problem I see with your dystopian theory is that we wouldn't have anywhere to store all that data, because think about how much people think during the day. Imagine trying to store every single piece of information. You'd have to create an artificial brain.
Can you imagine going on the internet? It's not even the information, but it's like the hormonal, thing, and then you have
I appreciate the concept. I was even thinking something that would be funny would be like, you could have a light that would change color based on the hormones that person's releasing. So it's like, hey, here's a visual understanding of the type of attitude that person has right now. So you could, like, even if, let's say something that gave you the ability, something that gave you the ability to see someone's aura, right? That would tell you everything about that person you need to know, right? Because auras are supposed to be the energies that surround people, which is supposed to be undeniable truth. So if it's a bad aura, it's bad energy, it's a negative thing. You're aware of that. You don't need to know the details based on the words that person's using. You understand fully that that person is a negative entity because you can see it clearly. Right?
Can you imagine if you could look across the street and be like, I don't need to be near that person because they're so positive.
But tell me that you've never done that. Tell me there hasn't been in your life. You see, I need to be fucking with that guy.
That happens, but
but if it was so clearly,
to compare it with your own, if this person is the exact same energy as me, I either need to stay away from you because of that, or vice. You know what I mean? I think we can develop that, though. I think we can develop that, and I think humans have already developed that to a certain length. Now it's not. We need the help of some really smart people to do that, but
no, I agree, but I think So here's an argument for not using something like Neuralink. Okay, what if through human evolution we're capable of doing that armor through meditation, through connectiveness with spirituality, through research of history and ancient techniques that these people developed? I think pre-human history that we're describing now. I
think we're way too impatient to wait for human evolution to get to that.
I don't think so. I don't think we'll have a choice.
We haven't evolved in the last 100,000 years. More than that.
Which is nothing, like you said, though, right? That's nothing on the timeline, on the time scale of Earth.
Because we're now aware of it, and we probably always have been, but now that the awareness of these things are on a large scale.
I'll argue physically we have not evolved. Consciously, humans have evolved. Let's just wait. Consciously, humans have evolved. I will tell you this 100%. Why? Look at women's rights. Look at gay marriage. Right? Look at the understanding and awareness of all this stuff, of corruption within government, of underlying racism, all stuff that the world might not have even been aware of prior to 2020, right? We are aware of now. So not just negative things and taking action, thinking negatively or whatever, but the world is aware of them, okay? So as a whole, the Earth's consciousness is now higher than it would have been at the beginning of 2020 because we were, and this is me saying this from my experience, is there was a lot of people who saw the negativity and went, I don't want to live there, so I'm going to do some deep dive thinking into why this is happening. And they deep dive into their own reasons. They deep dive into other people's reasons. I deep dive into this is a business, right? And you do the same thing with your space. And we use this this energy of I guess the negative things that happen. I'm losing my place again. I had a really important point. Damn it! I hate my learning disabilities. What were we talking about? Quick, remind me.
Collective consciousness evolving.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so we see that, like you said, that spike in people that are taking initiative and are opposing the negativity, right? Well, that in itself is the Earth growing its consciousness. Okay, growing its awareness. It's people that are going, I'm going to start here, help the people around me, and then you know what? I know it's going to take time, so in 10 years, let's say, I want to help the people across Canada. In 20 years, I want to be in the US, Canada, and England. In 50 years, I want to be around the world with this business that is only geared towards teaching people about consciousness and raising their consciousness levels, right? And their awareness levels of the world around them.
Yeah, I think.
And that in itself, with multiple business doing that, teaching multiple people, I'm more likely to run into a person on the street today and talk to them and have a conversation about meditation than I would have 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That is Earth's consciousness growing.
Yeah, okay. I think that's
right?
that's a much better description than saying our consciousness has evolved. I think
it's constantly evolving.
It is, but not. I think it's growing, and our knowledge of it is expanding. But the our ability to have consciousness has not changed. If you took you or I and put us way back, around a campfire 10,000 years ago, we would probably still be able to meditate on the same level that we are today. No more, no less. Because
disagree.
Because physically we're the same. But if you took the same person, put them in this situation, and gave them all the knowledge that we have gained as a civilization over the years, they would still be able to reach that consciousness. They would be able to realize that people are equal and should be treated that way, that we're all humans.
I disagree with you there.
Really?
I think that I disagree with you. I think that, and I'll tell you why. I disagree with you because if you take yourself 10 years ago, okay? And I know you're physically the same person, right? What's a thought that you had 10 years ago that you don't have now?
Probably my hockey ability. I was very I'd say self-conscious about I had to tell myself I was a good goalie. Anyways.
So your awareness of your abilities has increased, you would say, right? Since that point.
Yeah, no, I think I'm probably not. I know I'm a better hockey player than I was at that point, but it's not that much. I learned how to become aware, like my knowledge of how to become aware. Yeah, yes, I'm more aware. But I wouldn't have learned that until I learned about meditation.
But you had to be physically experience something to become consciously aware of it, right? Like you physically experienced all the things you did in hockey, and what that taught you was to become consciously aware of your abilities as a goaltender.
Yes, but it didn't change my DNA,
I'm not arguing that it physically changes your DNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But I keep losing track. I keep losing track of where we're starting in these conversations. I think Okay, I know what I'm trying to say. If you take Adam of 10 years ago and you take Adam right now, and let's just say besides the age difference, you're the exact same person except for the experiences you've had within that time.
Yeah.
You may not be able to sit down at a table and have a conversation with yourself 10 years ago and explain a concept that you now understand. Because without that experience, you wouldn't be able to understand it on that level, right? So I disagree when I say that you can go back in time to you of 10 years ago and have the exact same meditation and same experience and same knowledge and same awareness that you have now, because you've experienced, you've grown, and you've shared knowledge, okay? There are people who have to go through experiences to learn things, right? But we as a world, right? What two events did we go through that taught us collective lessons that hopefully, and it seems like we're moving away from, what two things happened that we won't do again?
Like I don't know, the world wars. I don't know where you're.
Yeah, the Great Wars.
Yeah.
The Great Wars, right? The Great Wars affected the whole world.
Yeah.
The Great Wars were something that the whole world was aware of before social media became a tool to create.
Three things. Pandemic. This is
exactly. So pandemic.
This is another one.
Yeah. So the world's consciousness grew from those moments because consciously, as an entire planet, we went world wars, not good.
Yeah.
Not good for people. Not good.
Oh, what? Is that me? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Every once in a while, my computer decides to just, shut down. So we'll get this going again here. That. At some point, we'll get this going again. Yeah. I think Cole and I, and I'll tell him once we get back on together, but we're talking about different things again. We seem to do that a lot. It's very much, he'll have a train of thought, and I have a train of thought, and one thing goes one way, and another thing goes another way. Even though oftentimes we are on the same page. So, all right. There we go.
Hey-oh, there we are.
This fucking computer, man. That's nuts. It literally just, closed.
I know, I saw. You were live streaming the whole time. You could see what was going on.
I was trying to keep talking. So I made a point to our, huge viewing audience, just how, because on what you said, I think we're talking about the same thing but different things at the same time. We just misunderstood each other and went on our different tangents. So I guess not to say going consciousness, I couldn't go back in time and just pick somebody up and tell them something. But if you were to take a person from 10,000 years ago and give them the same experiences that I had up until this point, we would have the same level of consciousness.
So you're talking about brain function,
brain's functional ability to produce consciousness.
Yeah, so if a person who was born 10,000 years ago was born today, we could teach them to be a normal person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To be a functioning man. Okay. So, all right.
Sorry.
I agree. No,
keep going. Yeah. I think we're on the same page, but
I think I agree. I think I agree with you there, and I think that maybe that's even a testament to human development in itself, which is our brains are as developed as they need to be. Right? This is almost an argument for what I was saying, which is that we just need to learn how to use them better. Instead of trying to add more to something we already don't know how to use fully, why don't we learn how to fully functionally use our brains?
That's a great idea.
Well, and that's
all
meditation is, though, right? That's all meditation is. What I'm finding now is that by through meditation specifically, and sitting and thinking and visualizing and listening to people who did get to these levels of meditation where they're having visions and seeing different things and telling you what they experience, and then learning to literally go inside of yourself and understand how it's going to work for you in your brain, which way you have to phrase things, which words you have to use to make this thing make sense to you. You develop a consciousness that puts you on a different level than other people.
Yeah.
And when I say a different level, I say, and there's almost no way to describe it to people.
I think going back to that, you vibrate with a different energy level is the...
Yes and no, but I guess I'll describe it this way. So I'll give you an example. I'll be sitting on the couch watching TV, okay? And I start to think about where I was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put myself physically, in my imagination, in my shoes a year ago. And I'll sit and think, what would my thought process be right now if I was still the same person I was 1 year ago, still thought the same, still felt the same, right? And then all of a sudden I can feel my stomach drop.
Yeah.
I can feel a negative, just is like, ugh, it's this inherent feeling of scared and worried, and do not do that, right? Of like, because it's lowering my consciousness. It's moving away and towards negativity. Whether it feels like a negative thing to think how I would have thought a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a year ago, I wouldn't have thought the way I was thinking was a negative thing, right? But because I increased my consciousness, I now don't think that way. And when I start to, I feel how negative it is, whereas before, it didn't feel negative. It felt normal.
Yeah.
So that is an increase in consciousness, an increase in brain capacity and physical power. Yeah, I agree with you. I have no idea about the biology.
Yeah. Just to kind of add to that, I think when you say like it puts you on a different level than people who haven't done that,
it gives you the ability to deal with things that other people can't.
No, so it's not only that, but like if you were to strictly compare, yourself once you begin meditating and begin experiencing some of these things, and yourself before then, it's just you are becoming the best version of yourself, and the people who haven't done that are not becoming the best version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to like not say I'm better than you,
Yes. Sorry, and it's not. Yeah. It's not.
Because I know exactly what you mean, man. Okay. Like I feel the exact same way. It's like,
and
I wish the people around me could be the best version of themselves as well.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be better than everyone. Mm-hmm. I wish everyone was the best version of themselves. That is what I wish, right?
Yeah.
Now,
you should.
And everyone should. And if everyone wished that, we'd be living a lot nicer place.
Absolutely. What's what's the time on the video right now? Do you want to write this down? Because this would be a great clip.
It says we're not getting any video right now.
I know the video camera I had going.
87 minutes ago. It says
87. Okay, yeah, write that down because I think like that last minute would be a phenomenal thing to post. I think people could really fucking jive and they might want to actually tune in.
I think so too.
But yeah, my camera, it was a fully charged battery and it died. I think this camera's it's getting worse.
Oh, really?
Quite a bit, but it's okay. This is good. So unfortunate that clip came up right after the camera dies.
That's
legit,
okay.
That's right after. So
honestly, man, that's totally fine. I think
we got a good
What I wanted to say though was, and it was on the topic that we were talking about was the levels thing, right? And I've been watching a lot of UFC fights lately.
Okay.
And I've been watching a lot of documentaries on people in sports in particular that become the greatest at what they do. Right. So championship UFC fights, greatest UFC fighter ever, greatest, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan docs, stuff like that, and analyzing their psyche, right? And one thing you always hear, and a lot you're starting to hear in MMA, is when guys win, and it's supposed to be like this fight, right? Physically, physically, they're comparative. Mentally, they're both strong fighters. They're both, the greatest records are similar, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
What separates the champion from the person who's not the champion, right? And the person who is the champion will, on numerous occasions, you hear say, there's levels to this shit, right? There's levels to this shit. To the layman's person, that's a brag, right? I'm better than you, right? That's what that means. There's levels to this shit, and you're not on my level.
Mm-hmm.
To the champion, that's not a brag, okay? He's not bragging about his ability.
Mm-hmm.
He's not bragging about how he can throw a punch harder than you can throw a punch, or how he can head kick and you can't head kick, or anything physical, right? He's literally talking about his mentality. And when I say his mentality, I mean his entire thought process throughout the length of the fight, throughout his entire training camp, and throughout his day-to-day life on who he is and what his purpose is in this life.
Yeah.
If I can walk into a ring and square up with a person and know physically that we're the same or similar, the only advantage I can have over that person is what I'm thinking going into the ring, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can think to myself and know, and not just think it, but know it. So not even have to think it, but just feel it, that this is where I'm supposed to be, that this is what I was born to do, that it doesn't matter what you did leading up to this moment, you're going to lose this fight because this is my destiny. My mental edge going into that fight is going to be on another level.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means I will not give up. I will not lose this fight because I already know it's my destiny to be champion. You're here as a stepping stone for me because your level of mentality, your mindset is not that of a champion, which is that it's your destiny to beat me.
Yeah.
You're looking at me as a challenge, as something that's in your way from reaching something you want. I'm looking at you as something that God or the universe has put in front of me to challenge my destiny. And I already know that God's given me the strength, or the universe or whatever is giving me the strength to defeat all the challenges I'm going to face. Therefore, you already lost this fight, dude. Therefore, I have no fear, no worry, no doubt. I have extreme confidence in my game plan and how I'm going to execute that and how things are going to go. I don't have to think about the fight. I don't even have to think about what you're thinking. I don't think about the crowd. I just have to walk in, and my body is going to do the rest. Yeah. I'm not in control. My subconscious is. I've given that control to God or the universe because I know I'm going to win this fight. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be my conscious mind that wins this fight. My knowledge of MMA, right? My knowledge of how to do a certain hold, it's going to be my subconscious that wins this fight because my subconscious is the only thing that can connect with God or the universe or whatever. And this is my purpose.
No,
right?
To give you, I guess, like a personal example of that, me, Adam, the goalie of now, maybe not now, I'm not quite in shape I'd like to be, but this summer we'll get there. But
not right now.
would absolutely dominate me, Adam, the goalie of, probably 4 years ago before and like it's honestly I can't even imagine how I played before I understood it. Like this is, once I started meditating, that is what took me to the next level. That's what was, made me capable of playing in some of the, as well as I have in some of the games I played. Like it's I can't even comprehend what I would have been doing before then, and like I'm aware of it, but it's just like, man, like I wish I had learned this when I was young.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, right? So here's an example for you as a hockey player, Connor McDavid, right? We all see that he's like what? He's one. I don't know if he beat his previous scoring record already, or if he was still 1 goal away or whatever. But
it's just anyways.
But what's changed? Physically, I'm sure he's still working out and crushing his workouts just as hard as he was before. What's changed?
Dude,
his
it's
mentality.
all mentality.
He's so in the zone every single day of his life with hockey that he doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't think about records. He doesn't think about scoring. He just does exactly what he does without thinking about a single aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that's beginner's luck, right? That's what beginner's luck is. There's a psychology theory that is the less you actually know about something you're doing, the more likely you are to succeed in doing it, because you just do it instead of thinking about each individual aspect and action that goes into all of what you're about to do, which is what usually causes people to screw up, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go, I can't put my arm here, I have to put it here, right?
Yeah.
It's versus if you're not thinking about it, it would actually just be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
It's
so,
and literally that was me as a hockey player. Like, I broke down every part of my game, like to the extreme extent, and it was helpful, and it made me as skilled as I am today. But when it came time to execute, it was, there was always that thought. No matter how much I thought I was focusing or I thought I was doing this and that, it just wasn't the same. So it's man. It was like
it's the difference between a championship and a silver medal, right?
Yeah.
It's that difference. It's the difference between a tie game in overtime for the championship, and that guy's coming down on a breakaway, and you're thinking, am I at the top of the circle? Am I in position? Is my arm up? Am I ready? What's he doing? Is he
just making the save.
Versus just doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And knowing, I'm not losing this game. Yeah. Bring it. Right?
Yeah. Here's a really good example of my, where I was, when I was young and stuff. And I never did this in a big game, but there was like the odd, fun tournament or whatever. That I'd go out and we would have a night, and I would be absolutely hungover, like so hungover, and I would go out and I would be like on the verge of throwing up the whole time, but I would be close. I've never played poorly hungover, like I've
just
always,
lights out,
But it's because I'm so worried about how shitty I feel that I don't have to think about anything, and then all of that practice and all of that. The time that I put in is just, that's when it comes out, and it's crazy to think that it's kind of wild. So I want to give you just one more quick story on this.
Yeah.
So on, when was it? Thursday? I don't know. Anyways, one of these days, for those that don't know, I was playing in Iceland 2 years ago, and we ended up winning the championship and stuff. And I got a call, like a video call from my former teammates, and they had just won the championship again there. And I know when I was going through, that was my first year of really learning meditation, and it took my game to the next level. And I was like, I need to pass this on to my goalie counterparts, right, and share this with them. And so one of the guys that he was one of my goalie partners when I was there, he played through the playoffs, and he put up, even better numbers than I did when I was there too. And it was just like, it was a really nice moment. It was like, nice. He has embraced this in every part of it. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
That's cool though, man. Like, you transmitted that to someone else, right? Yeah. And the ability to be able to see someone's game change from not something they're physically doing, but just the way they're thinking about it. Absolutely. That's the cool part about it, right? And I guess have you ever had a big moment in hockey, like where you made like a game-winning save kind of thing, right? And then after the game, everyone is always like hypes you up and is, oh my God, what were you thinking in that moment? What was it like? What did you experience? What was that moment like for you saving the game, right?
Yeah.
Well, have you ever found that those moments, when you describe them, it's like describing a dream? Where you're trying to think about what you were thinking about in that moment, or the exact everything that was happening. Right?
For me, those moments, it was like I was, again, before I started meditating and stuff. Yeah, like I found that was more the case. It was just like I was like, I don't know, I did that. I guess I got lucky or whatever. But once I started meditating, it was like, well, I was focused on the puck. Like there's nothing else that mattered in that moment. So it's really easy to describe. I know exactly what was going on. It was, I focused on the puck. I saw it go over there, so I dove and I made the save. Like, what else do you want from me? Exactly what you saw is what happened. So,
So you're making, it's not even that you are, it's like a dream. It's that you're just simplifying the act, right?
Yeah.
Like when it came down to it, I didn't make a diving game-winning save. I just stopped the puck from going in the net.
Yeah. That's all it is.
Right? That's all I have to do. My job as a goaltender is not to have a 95 save percentage. It's to stop the puck from going in the net.
Stop the puck, yeah.
And I just need to get better at that, right? So if that's how we think, then we get results. Yeah. But if we think in detail, we think in this, and we try to analyze every little thing, like, yes, that's good for your skill set, but no, it's not good for what you want in the moment, in games. So right? It's
like finding that combination of both. And sports is...
Train your body for skill sets and train your mind for simplicity, right?
Sports is a really cool thing because you can directly see the relationship between all of those things, right? You can
sports and life in general,
and life. But when you talk about things like the law of attraction, I think sports. There are so many things that you can control within like your body and what you're doing, and you can see the direct results. Whereas in life, sometimes you can't explain these things, but they are happening. So it's almost a more difficult skill to take into.
Well, it's a version of life's challenges playing out in front of you, right?
Yeah.
It's the same as the example of the card game that I did, right? If I focus on giving and I focus on just doing what's necessary to play the game and have my best interests in mind, but just do what's necessary in that moment, 9 times out of 10, I get my cut, right? With it's the faith thing that comes in the universe. Okay, you did that right. Here's your reward.
Yeah.
Or you know what? You didn't do that quite right. Reanalyze that hand you just had and how you played it, and figure out why you didn't do it right. What you didn't do right. Oh, okay, you know what? I would have actually been better to have played that hand this way. I would have been better to have taken a shot from the point instead of a shot from the top of the circle because there was someone blocking the shot or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Like your performance should be subconscious.
Yeah. Your
review should be conscious.
Yeah. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, and one thing that I really preach to everybody is those moments are only that big in those moments.
Yeah.
Right? You think about one of the biggest moments in sports in the last 5 years, Kawhi Leonard, in the last 10 years, Kawhi Leonard hitting that shot to send the Toronto Raptors to the NBA Finals, right? Yeah. For the first time in Raptors history.
Yes.
Right? And so you think about that moment, you go, wow, that was an incredible moment in sports.
Yeah.
Right? But it only mattered in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't made that shot, I wouldn't feel any differently right now than I felt, if they did make it, which he did, right? Yeah. And so in that moment is the only time that your mindset needs to be ready, I guess. Not the only time I need to rephrase that. In that moment is the only time that it truly matters if you have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
If you think about it and you prep yourself for those moments and you think, how do I get myself ready for a moment like that? Well, the process that I came up with, maybe this will be helpful to people, is to think, what's next, right? So if I'm Kawhi Leonard, I'm not thinking about that shot that I'm about to take to send this game to Game 7. I already know I'm going to shoot that shot.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the NBA Finals. I'm thinking about prepping for defending LeBron James. I'm thinking about making free throws because my free throw percentage was down in this series, so I want to make sure I'm going to get hacked a lot next series. I'm going to get my free throws up, right? So I'm not thinking about that moment. I'm thinking about what's next because I already know that I'm going to make it. And the guy who's going to lose this game is thinking about blocking my shot. He's not thinking about playing in the finals.
Yeah.
Right? The guy who's going to win the championships, not thinking about scoring the puck on this breakaway in overtime. He's thinking about all the training in the off season that he's going to be doing now that he's a champion. Right?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, oh, my elbow's got to be here and my glove's got to be here and I need to be at the top of the crease when he's here and this. You're thinking about, oh man, I'm going to make this fucking sick save and then I'm going to I'm gonna be enjoying the summer with the boys, right?
And
being a champion.
Yeah.
And that changes how you enter the game.
Yeah. I think it's such an ironic way to put it, because in the moment you can't think about that, but leading up to the moment, that's what you have to think about. It's such a paradoxical thing, but I don't know.
You have to be thinking ahead of where you are. So if that moment's happening, think about what's coming next. Don't think about what's happening now. But if that moment's coming, and you think that that moment's coming, right?
I would say in practice,
prep for it. Prep for that moment.
Yeah, prep. Yeah.
And then you do not have to think about it when it comes.
When it comes, exactly.
Right? But even saying that, people are like, okay, I get that. Yeah. But you really don't know what that means until you do it. Mm-hmm. Right? So for me, it's like, okay, let's say my business is a perfect example, right? Let's say what we're doing, right? And in the new initiative that we're doing there with the speaker series, where I'm coming in and doing these talks once a week. Well,
you should share a little bit
I'll plug myself at the end. But what that's doing is I've given speeches in front of 100, 200 people when I worked for Red Bull, right? Like on stage talking about Stampede and how everything's going to work and all that stuff. So I'm not shy in talking in front of people. But what this is going to allow me to do is sharpen those skills. Talk to people that haven't heard of this concept. Talk to people who have. Answer questions I haven't heard. Think about things differently. Get perspectives I haven't had. So that when it comes to a moment and someone comes to me and says, hey, we want you to do this speech for 1,000 people, for 10,000 people, for 20,000 people, it doesn't feel any different to me than if I'm talking to 5 people or 2 people or 1 person, right? Because I'm prepping myself for any moment, whether it's big, small, tough shot, easy shot, free throw. I'm prepping myself for that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And when that moment comes, I don't have to think about it because I'm ready for every moment based on my skill set, based on my knowledge, based on my mindset of what I'm doing. Put me in that big moment. Put me in front of 10,000 people. I'm not going to fuck my speech up because I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm going to look at that person in the front row and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the 10,000 people around me. Yeah. Right? If you agree or disagree, great. But I'm here speaking to you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're on the ice in that starting goaltender position in that overtime game for a reason, because you're the person who's going to be able to stop the puck.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing for everybody in whatever situation you're in. You're in that situation because you can deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of having the mental ability to, not the physical ability to.
Yeah, I agree with
right?
that 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. We should probably wrap it up. We've been talking for.
I agree. Let's plug in Karen's podcast here first.
Yeah,
I want to talk. Karen Sorensen, friend of the show. Very excited for that. May 5th. It's going to be awesome. I'm jacked up about it. Yes, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I've got.
We're gonna do it live. Like it's live, but live in person. Live. It's gonna be mostly. It'll be exciting.
Karen won't be at the beach, but I will be at the beach in my nicest. Casual wear.
That was probably extra casual. Well, maybe a little bit nice. We'll see.
We'll see. But it's going to be interesting. She's going to talk about her 3 years of experience, or sorry, not 3 years, her 3 terms of experience being the mayor of Banff, so 12 years. What she's dealt with in Parliament and what she's dealt with in politics, and what she's dealt with as a mother and a citizen of a town in one of the largest tourist destinations in Canada, and how they dealt with COVID and all that stuff. Like, we're going to talk to her about everything and her experience in her life, because she's lived a fascinating one in terms of what she's experienced on the political end of things. And I think that's something that a lot of people need answers on right now. So she should be able to provide a really good perspective. And then the last thing is I'm going to plug myself here. So starting next week, hopefully, maybe up in the air. That's up to you.
We'll figure it out.
I guess we'll announce a date, but we're going to start doing the 1 hour long kind of presentations and the speaker series, where I'll be taking people through what we teach them in our course and advertising to local business owners in Sundre, Didsbury, Olds, Carstairs. Come down and just kind of learn about how you can help your business out, and some of these things that we're working on as a community with C&E and yourself and all the other members that are already a part of the hub that we're working with, and the initiatives we're trying to do. and how we're going to help businesses by doing those things. So very excited about that, and I'm excited to start really getting and interacting with those business owners, man. Like, so it's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited.
Dude, I'm stoked for it too. I think again, going back to, there's a lot of people out there that are doing this stuff and that are on the same page and ready for this kind of connection amongst a community. So we'll see.
Yeah, and a calling for it, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
all right,
awesome,
brother. Well, we'll see you on May 5th, and I'll see everybody else on May 5th too.
Sounds good. Cheers.
All right. See ya.
Oh. I gotta fucking piss. Probably didn't need to. Yeah, the fucking battery guy. He was cool.